Hello new friends, welcome to day 3. This is your last video in your weekly core challenge. I'm going to be going through all of the options per the usual, never going to change. That way if you have to drop down to a modification, it's all good. You know it's expected of you and you're good to go, all right? So the very first one we're going to go through is called a little core activation. We're going to start into a high plank position. Anything high plank it can always be modified to an elevated surface. So I will for sure be showing you that, but we're gonna see high plank and low plank. With all of those options, when I say squeeze your cheeks, that means squeeze these cheeks. You might smile, but squeeze these cheeks, okay? And the reason I say that is because usually when I see people into a high plank, either our glutes are into the air, so now look at my wrist position, it's not always in line, okay? This is also not putting any pressure onto that core, it's putting all that pressure onto our shoulders, all right? Another reason why I say squeeze your cheeks is because sometimes I see those cores drop down past that core line, okay? This is over hyperflexing those hip flexors. We're not necessarily working that core as we do this, okay? Similarly, now we're working pretty much an isometric hold in that chest. So when I say squeeze our cheeks, it's because I want you to literally squeeze your cheeks in an effort to keep your core elevated, but not too elevated, okay? So you can utilize that for dropping down to your knees. You can utilize that for a low plank on knees or a low plank on feet. You get my point, okay? So just know that I'll say that a few times, that's what that means. In our core activation, you're gonna start into a high plank position. So from here, I want us to raise our leg. We're gonna touch into the middle of our hands. Raise our leg again. We got out to this side, raise, out, and we're crossing, all right? Same thing, next side. Raise, middle, raise, same, raise, opposite. Just trying to touch that knee to elbow, okay? If that's not happening for whatever reason, you can't necessarily do that and not try to squeeze those cheeks and go super slow, because the slower you go, the more you're gonna feel that core burn, okay? High plank position onto your elevated surface. If that's not in your world, same idea. Into the middle, same, and opposite. Okay, so you see how it's like super similar. We're not really changing a whole lot here, okay? Just making it more possible, making you have more control. Second one we're gonna do is gonna be a low plank. On our low plank, I want your palms facing each other, not touching the ground like so, all right? And the reason I say that is because we wanna protect our rotator cuffs and our shoulders. Keep those elbows in line, okay? So remember what to do with those cheeks, and if you ever need to, you can drop down to those knees. But elbows are underneath shoulders, core is braced, we're squeezing everything into this plank, and we're gazing ahead. We're just breathing here, okay? Trying to hold it as long as we can, or until that buzzer goes off. Our third movement is called a sit-through. You have an option, I'll show you that in just a second, but on our sit-through, you're gonna start into a tabletop position, so the knees are on the ground also, wrists are underneath shoulders, knees are underneath hips, curl your toes under. And you're gonna raise those knees off the ground. Once we're here, doesn't matter if you're starting right or left, you're gonna remove one hand. As you remove that hand, you're gonna kick that opposite foot through, okay? Hand back down onto the ground. Now you're kicking. Now you're like a well-oiled machine. From here, all we're doing is we're bracing our core, we're breathing, and it's a lot of coordination, okay? So you kind of get a twofer with your core. If you're laughing at me for whatever reason, first of all, try. Try is the key word. Second of all, if that's not happening, no problem. We're gonna go into a T rotation instead. High plank, you remember what that means with those cheeks. Feet are wider so that you have a stronger foundation. And all you're doing is you're rotating side to side onto one hand, all right? If that's not possible, drop down to those knees. Hey, here you go. Rotate side to side. And of course, if you really need to, no problem. Maybe you have more control right here. We're just rotating side to side on our elevated surface, all right? So as you can see, you're just doing whatever you can do to give yourself the most quality movement possible. We're gonna finish this round up with a pelvic tilt into our bridge. So pay attention to this general area right here. What I want you guys to do is I want you to tilt your pelvis, so you're bringing your pelvis closer to your belly button, and now squeeze up. That's gonna allow that natural curvature in your lumbar spine to now be pressed up against the ground, and you're gonna feel it in your hamstrings just a little bit more. Goal of those bridges is always to squeeze to rise, not just to rise your hips and to try to get as high as you can, okay? So we're gonna be playing around with different times today. But we have a 10-second countdown that I've already started, so you gotta get ready. Yay. We're gonna start with our core activation. So are you doing a high plank? Or are you dropping down to modification? No wrong answer. Let's just go ahead and make sure we got it under control. Into the middle, same, and opposite. Next leg. Into the middle, same, and opposite. Keep breathing here. The slower you go, the more you're gonna feel that core contract because it's more time under tension, all right? Our next one is gonna be a plank. Remember, it's middle, opposite, middle, same, opposite. I totally confused you. That was my bad. All right, here we go. Drop down into that plank. Are you starting on your feet? Squeeze those cheeks. Everything is squeezed. We're breathing. Squeeze those calves, those hamstrings, those quads, those glutes, that core, that chest. Yes, I know. Elbows, all of it. Breathe. Are you dropping down to your knees? Are you going to elevated surface? Are you pushing that limit of what is hard? In through your nose, out through your mouth. We're going into sit-throughs. Here we go, guys. Into that tabletop position. How are we doing? Are we in our sit-through? Are we in our T rotation? So many options. I hope this shows you how inclusive fitness is, all right? Do what you need to do. We're gonna go into those bridges. And here we go. This is our last few seconds. Pelvic tilt, squeeze it up. Pelvic tilt, squeeze it up. You'll notice I still have some control as I release my glutes down to the ground. Totally. Don't just let that control go, okay? Pelvic tilt, super small. I'm doing it. Watch me do it, okay? Try to mimic it. Try is always the key word. We're getting ready for that rest. In 3, in 2, and relax. All right, friends, all right, all right. You know what to do. Go ahead and rewind. Do it 2 more times through. Can't wait to see your proof. Congratulations on finishing day 3.